Hello, I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. We have all recently learned of the new regional approach to combating COVID-19 and the pending closure and stay-at-home orders from our governor. We were also told there was a potential he would be withholding federal and state funding from counties who did not enforce the orders. Ironically, it wasn't that long ago our same governor loudly and publicly argued how wrong it was for the President of the United States to withhold federal funding from states not complying with federal laws. The dictatorial attitude toward California residents while dining in luxury, traveling, keeping his business open, and sending his kids to in-person private schools is very telling about his attitude toward California residents, his feelings about the virus, and it is extremely hypocritical. These closures and stay-at-home orders are flat out ridiculous. The metrics used for closures are unbelievably faulty and are not representative of true numbers and are disastrous for Riverside County. When the medical field is so split about this virus, it might be time to employ a little common sense. Keeping money and support from our hospitals, who are struggling with normal, seasonal increases in patients, coupled with COVID-19 patients, is irresponsible. It appears part of the new goal is to shift attention away from his and others' personal behavior with a do as I say, not as I do attitude by turning public opinion against California sheriffs. He is expecting us to arrest anyone violating these orders, cite them and take their money, close their businesses, make them stay in their homes, and take away their civil liberties, or he will punish all of us. I believe that all jobs are essential to someone. Leaders do not threaten, attempt to intimidate, or cause fear. Bullies do. As has been our position from the beginning of this pandemic, the Sheriff's Department is asking and expecting Riverside County residents to act responsibly and do what they can to protect themselves and their family from contracting the virus. Wear your mask and practice social distancing. While the governor's office and the state has threatened action against violators, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department will not be blackmailed, bullied, or used as muscle against Riverside County residents in the enforcement of the governor's orders. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a safe and Happy New Year.
Well, I got to tell you, it was an
amazing speech. Amazing.
Truly was, Sheriff. And I think that it was such a fantastic show of leadership in a state that isn't well known for elected officials leading.
Yeah, leading.
So
thank you.
I just thought it was fantastic. I got to tell you, I deal with politicians all the time, elected officials all the time. And the wishy-washiness and the gee golly gosh, I'm afraid if I make an opinion known and people don't like it, that that it'll reflect badly on me. And for you to stand up and say, hey, look, this is how it is. I represent the people who elected me, and for you to call them out like that, I think was extremely brave. What was? Tell me your thoughts on it. What was the thought process on putting that video out?
Well, all along from the beginning of the pandemic, we found that me doing these videos was very receptive from our county residents. They liked seeing them. They liked hearing the message. And really, throughout the whole thing, it was they appreciated my honest, upfront, common sense approach. And so knowing, over the last 9 months that the rules keep changing, they decide, how they're going to shut it down, what the goals really are. If you remember, in the very beginning, this was supposed to last 2 weeks. Yeah. And, a million Riverside County residents were going to die. So in the beginning, it was like, yes, I'm all for this. We need to do something. But over the last 9 months, we've all come to realize that I don't think this virus is as deadly as they say. Now, with that, I believe it does present its major problems with people that have other health issues. We lost 2 deputies, and that was tragic for our department. So there are people that say I have no heart and say that I'm killing people and that this is going to be worse and that I don't care about lives. But I do care about lives. I think that this is just not the right approach when this matrix, where they've come up with a new matrix that 135 people, right now we only have 135 people in ICUs in Riverside County that have to do with COVID out of 2.5 million people. So we're going to shut down the entire county, close businesses, 2.5 million people have to stay in their house because 135 people are in the hospital with COVID.
Right.
It doesn't really make sense. But then the real issue comes to me, for me, is there was so much that went into this. It just isn't about this virus. Over the last year, the governor has released 20,000 inmates, roughly, maybe a little bit more than that, back into our neighborhoods for nothing. He does not believe in incarceration. Our legislature is making it extremely difficult for law enforcement officers to do our job and keep people safe. And so we're being forced to accept all of these real criminals into our neighborhoods, and then they expect us to make criminals out of business owners and waiters and waitresses and hair salon owners and nail, men and women. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And they want law enforcement in a time where we are doing our absolute best to build bridges with the community, to fix relationships, to mend relationships. They want us to be the muscle, the arm of that enforcement of closing businesses and making people stay in their house. And we not only do we not have the money or the personnel to do it, I just think it's the wrong thing to do.
Well, and you have been, and for those who don't know, you were just elected just a couple of years ago, and you actually ran against an incumbent who'd been there for a while and wanted to stay there a little bit longer, and you really just blew the tires off and said, hey, you know what, there's some things I want to change, there are things I believe in, and people responded to it. And when we started Riverside County Gun Owners about a year ago at our first event, we made sure to invite you because you'd have done so much to improve a lot of things, but especially one of the things we care about a lot, which was the CCW program. And you didn't just talk about it, you actually did it. You were in office for just a couple of months and people started seeing huge improvements. And this has been an enormously tough year for someone who's in their second year of being sheriff. And you haven't backed down, you haven't compromised your principles. I've watched you, build bridges and talk to different communities, and are very respectful of the people that live in Riverside County. But you don't compromise your principle, and you are a leader. And I think that that leadership, I think you probably influenced some other sheriffs, because after you sent out that video, there were some other sheriffs in California that followed suit. And I don't know how much communication you guys have with each other, but I think that's the benefit of leadership. And I don't know if other sheriffs are, I don't know if you guys get together and say, hey, what are you going to do? Let's get together and do the same thing. But it certainly seems that your leadership paid dividends.
Yeah, early on we talk. I mean, I'm friends with my neighboring sheriffs, Orange County, San Bernardino, San Diego, Los Angeles. I text with them. We talk. But early on in this, we all came to the agreement, not necessarily agreement, it was just our own personal opinions and how we were going to lead our organizations, that we did not feel that this was law enforcement's role to be enforcing this when we had a regular job to do, when we're still handling crime, we're still fighting crime. So for the most part, there hasn't been any law enforcement agency that has gone on the enforcement side. There have been some instances where there has been citations issued, and some of those have made the news. But overall, we're pretty much on the same page. So them coming out, I don't think I influenced it. I think that they believed that anyway. What I will say is I may be just a little bit more vocal than what others are, and a little bit more reserved. I think they still feel the same way I am. Sometimes I can't control myself and keep it in. So, that it gets out there a little bit more. One thing that you mentioned earlier about politicians, I think that my appeal and why this went so far and why I've had such success over the last several months is people just want the truth. They want to be treated like adults, and they want to be told the truth. And when that happens, they're more likely side with you, to do what you would like them to do, rather than know that they're being lied to and try to be convinced to do something they may or may not want to do, you just lose that respect. So I certainly, while I am an elected official, I certainly will never be a politician. What you see with me is what you get. I hope that everything I do comes across as ethical and in the best interest of our residents, and that won't change. I guess that's who I am, and that certainly won't change.
And I think that's awesome. Now, one of the other than law enforcement enforcing these COVID restrictions, one of the things the state has in their toolbox is pulling licensing. Every job that you have to, they have just about every business that you open, you have to have it seems like a, very specific license, whether you're, painting nails or whatever you're doing. Bars, restaurants, alcohol, license, food license, that sort of thing. One of the threats has been that, hey, if you don't comply and if the sheriff won't send somebody to arrest you, then we'll just pull your license and you'll be out of business permanently. What are your thoughts on that? Is there a way around it? Is that a realistic threat?
Is it legal?
I think it is a realistic threat. The legality, I don't know. I think that's why we employ attorneys, because half of them agree and half of them don't, and that's what they get paid for, is to argue their point. I don't know if it would be legal or not, but certainly that threat and that consequence is real. And while I don't know anyone personally that has had a state license revoked. I've heard that they have, with cosmetology, especially with barbers and with nail salons and with hair salons. So liquor licenses, that is a state regulated license. So anything like that, they certainly could take that from you.
That's scary. That's scary business.
It really is. It is.
And I've talked to some of the county supervisors who said, yeah, we'd love to, not comply. And so, even some of the DAs, although, down here in San Diego, our DA tried to make an example of a gym owner in this little, town in Ramona. And a lot of people talked her out of it, and said, no, this is not going to happen. I say talked her out of it. That's not exactly what happened. They got irate and said, this is ridiculous. This isn't why we supported you. But that's a real scary consequence where even some of the county supervisors who are saying, yeah, we want to push back, but who's going to step up first and say, all right, well, I'll risk my entire livelihood, my entire licensing to get rid of it. It's really, really terrifying. Now, have you thought about, maybe it's way too early, but there's an election coming up in 2 years. Is there a governor? Are you shopping for a candidate or?
No, I have my own election in 2 years. So, no, I'm right now I'm worrying about my election and making sure that I'm doing everything what I should be doing for our Riverside County residents. So they keep me going in this position. So, I've seen all of the comments and heard all of the talk, but I'm not quite sure that's for me.
I don't blame you. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing, because the city of Rivers, or the county of Riverside, the city of Riverside really, really needs a sheriff with your mindset. And just know I've gotten already, I can't tell you how many little texts and what have you, just saying they listened to it, they seen the video, and said you had a big set. And that's about all. That's about all I can say about that. It continued, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes, I've been
he doesn't know what to say to that.
What can you say? I think it's a pretty good compliment, personally, if you ask me.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, and we'd love to have you on down the road and tell us how things are going in Riverside.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Wow.
You guys keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Without someone doing something about it, it's not going to get any better.